Welcome back. World Press Freedom Day was proclaimed by the UN General Assembly in December of 1993, following the recommendation of UNESCO's General Conference. Since then, the 3rd of May, the anniversary of the Declaration of Windhoek, is celebrated worldwide as World Press Freedom Day. It is an opportunity to celebrate the fundamental principles of press freedom, defend the media from attacks on their independence, and to pay tribute to journalists who have lost their lives in the line of duty. To give more detail on the matter is MICT's Director for Print Media Affairs, Mr. Frans Nghitila. So good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening and welcome everybody.
Thank you so much for being here. Perhaps we can start with talking about, the significance of World Press Freedom Day.
Oh yes, thank you, Nina. I have heard you talking about the Declaration of UN Assembly 1993 that turned the Windhoek declarations onto a world event. I think it's important that this event was birthed here in Namibia. That's the significant departure from our point. It happened on the 29th of April to 3rd May 1991. There was a conference, a big conference in Windhoek, more so about African journalists. Namibia was just emerging from colonial period. And then we were able to host such a big conference. And on the 3rd of May, that conference adopted what we call Windhoek Declaration. And that's the declaration now that went as far as UN family member states, that led to them adopting 3rd May as a World Press Freedom Day, where the world is celebrating the freedom of the media and freedom of the press, and also advancing the protection of those that are on the line of duty. These are the journalists. So that is basically the importance of that day.
Yeah. Namibia ranked #1 in the Press Freedom in Africa by World Press Freedom Index of 2023. What does this mean for Namibia?
Well, I want to echo the sentiment expressed earlier on by our minister this morning. For us, it's work in progress. Because remember when we adopted Harambe 1 and Harambe 2, there are pillars, 5 pillars, of which one pillar that guided our operation is the one that talks about good governance, transparency, and accountability. And that's the pillar that instructed us, that came up with KPIs, that Ministry of Information and Communication Technology should come up with tools to reinforce our position as the freest press in not only in Namibia, I mean in Africa, but the world over. But since the trend, that was 2016, since then we have been occupying #1 position, with the exception of 18, when Ghana took over. And then of course we came #2. Of course, last year Seychelles took us over as well, but we came second, simply because they decriminalized defamation law. But we were not also worried. And today, already yesterday, if you have been following the news, we have reclaimed our position. So, but it's not only us as government, but there are other actors in the media, particularly the media industry. Everybody in the space, in the communication space, has really played their part. And it's through that efforts that together as a country, we continue celebrating, because we have the necessary tools and the necessary conducive environment that will continue promoting the press freedom and the independent pluralistic media for our people, particularly journalists, to exercise their rights as free people guided by our Constitution, particularly Chapter 3, Article 21. of the
How
Namibian
does
Constitution.
Namibia ensure that she maintains, this position, especially looking at the current issues within the media landscape?
Well, there are already mechanisms in place, and I'm happy to inform you that, as was earlier alluded to by our minister, last December, His Excellency the President signed into law the Access to Information. We call it Access to Information Act 8 of 2022. And already there's a seed fund allocated for the establishment of the Office of the Information Commissioner, which is a requisite in making sure that these efforts are well received by all Namibians. In addition, we already have established or developed some other tools, particularly the government communication strategy that talks about us being open and proactive in providing information to our people. And as a ministry, already we have started engaging with all government communicators. If you have seen in the media recently, you see their faces there, because we don't want our public to deal with faceless society in the public domain. We want, when you go look for services, more so information, you should know by whom and at what level you should receive what.
You mentioned the Office of the Information Commissioner. How will this organ, further bolster press freedom in Namibia?
It will, because access to information is not only Namibia that has come up with that law. It's a requirement in terms of good governance by mostly African countries. We are guided by what we call Africa model law, where you have a kind of a template. Each country is required to abide by certain set principles, for which I'm glad at least we have covered all the elements in that model law. Now, how will it assist? It's because the Information Commissioner is an independent body, where if you are an information requester and you feel aggrieved, you should feel at liberty to approach that office, and they will adjudicate the case per merit, whether the information refused was warranted or you should be getting that information. So in other words, this is an independent body that will be regulated by Parliament. Not even us as Minister of Information will ever say once we establish the office and it's running, then we pull back and we continue doing our business as usual.
Now, this year's World Press Freedom Day is being commemorated under the theme, Shaping a Future of Rights, Freedom of Expression as a Driver for All Other Human Rights. Perhaps you can just briefly expand on that for us.
Yes, it's a very good theme, because it talks about information as a fundamental human rights, particularly under Article 19 of UN Declaration. Information is a basic right for which every human being needs to sustain his or her livelihood and changing their lives for the better. Without having access to information, then we are doomed. But the danger is, and I want to be very clear here, is we are moving into a world of unknown that is dictated by geopolar political environments. It's no more business as usual. We have had countries already banning TikTok, for example, onto their public or official applications. And of recent, we have heard from this guy, what is his name? Jeffrey Hinton, one of the neural network pioneers, who was employed by Google's, for example. He resigned recently, and one of the recent advances is that he feared for the worst, because creating artificial intelligence, according to him, is that this artificial intelligence stuff, they become more intelligent than humans. and it might fall in the hands of bad guys. And what is happening is it might lead to misinformation and the character assassination in a way and in a manner that has never been seen before. And what will happen if they become more intelligent than us? So these are the situation. What we are saying is we live in a world of digital communications and artificial everything. If Namibians, we are not readying ourselves to face these challenges, particularly young ones, don't just go beyond applying what others have already invented. We require to be more active because as government, we continue creating enabling environment for our young people, you know, to catch up with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So it's a catch-22.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful.
Ms. Nghitila, lovely speaking to you this evening. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. And it's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
That was Mr. Frans Nghitila speaking to us, MICT's Director of Print Media Affairs. We'll be back shortly.